Welcome back, everyone. It's Greedy B. I'm recording videos again. Today, I'm going over the weekly recap of U.S. Central plus West versus Brazil for the Little Cup World Cup of Pokemon. So, up first, we have a Scarlet Violet game of babyboyblues versus vndrevc. Bringing a screens matchup. Screens really threatening with Magby, Magby and Scraggy both being new into the tier. A lot of offensive suppression. BBB deciding to go with a balance with a Porygon, and we're going to go straight into this game. Alright, off rip, we see a Diglett, Focus Sash, most commonly Focus Sash Diglett. BBB opts to just click Earthquake into the Diglett, breaks the Sash. Now, BBB, not expecting it to be special, gets hit with an Earth Power and clicks Rocks this turn. So now, all of a sudden, his Mudbray is taken as that 25% Pokemon that really could have answered something like a Magby or a Volby on his team in a pinch. Really, now, it's just been sacked turn 3. So he does get his Rocks up, but now does have to kill this Diglett before it puts in more work. Most commonly Special Volby, and it is Special Volby, comes in, Revenge kills the thing, and now Porygon comes in. The opponent, not knowing what kind of Porygon this is this Agility, is this Score Scarf, I don't know, decides to go into Impidimp as technically a free switch. Now Impidimp takes a lot from that, and clicks Reflect, or Light Screen, sorry, on the Ice Beam, and now screens are down, and now it's only up to the setup sweepers. Now the opponent, perhaps sensing that maybe this isn't a Choice Scarfed or a Choice Locked Pawniard, decides to go into the Scraggy instead of going into the Ice Resist Shelter or Magby. So sensing that perhaps this isn't locked, I'm going to go into my Scraggy instead. Marini comes in. Now, as the Scraggy clicks Dragon Dance clicks Knockoff, does 57%, but Marini reveals the weekly tech of Iron Defense. Now, Iron Defense is only run just because Scraggy was that much of a problem. And Knockoff comes in again, does not do enough damage. And now, all of a sudden, the Marini does win this 1v1. And the Scraggy, knowing this, does opt to switch out. It's like, I can't win this 1v1. Let me save my HP. Let's go into the Volby. Maybe that can pressure it. As the Marini clicks Recover again. Now, Volby comes in. Volby can live the hit, but it does just go for Nasty Plot. Now, these do normally run modded, so BBB is able to get a Brave Bird off. Does some good chip into the Volby as the Volby clicks Air Slash and dies. Now, Timber comes in. Technically, Timber is a bit of a scary switch in here, because if this is Terra Ghost, Timber is going to die this turn, and then really the only switching that, the consistent switching that can live is the Porygon maybe, or the Marini regarding no flinch. But they opt to not Terra Ghost if they didn't have it or not, and Timber does get their Revenge killed. Now, Scraggy does come back in. These do commonly run Terra Poison as they opt to click it. They click Dragon Dance, but BBB, again, because Scraggy was so limiting in the team builder, is running Bulk Up Timber in order to counter this. And then decides to click Terra Poison this turn to counter really Drain Punch is what this common fighting move coverage was on the Scraggies, because we didn't want to lose the 1v1. But the opponent, I guess, reading this, clicks Knockoff as we click our own Knockoff and do 54. Timber has significantly more bulk, but it is slower. Knockoff again comes in, does not crit, doesn't kill. Timber is able to kill. Alright, Shelter comes in. Shelter is faster than the Timber, so it can't afford really to set up, because it'd be taking a +1 Drain Punch and it'd be taking a +1 Mach Punch. So BBB decides to just get his chip, clicks Mach Punch, as the Shelter just opts to click Icicle Spear. Ghastly comes in, clicks Sludge Bomb, kills the Shelter, and now Magby comes in. Now Magby could technically be a problem, as it's faster than Ghastly. Marini item is knocked off. Could be it's technically faster than the Porygon, but it reveals Choice, Scarf, Ghastly, and Sludge Bomb does knock out. And so now US Wentral does get its first win of the thing, putting us up 1-0. Now, on to game 2, we have Melon versus Beraldo. This one's going to go right into this one as well. Alright, opponent leads Staryu into Apom, wasn't able to pause in time. Apom does scare out the Staryu. Staryu doesn't have much bulk, obviously there's no Violet in the tier, and most likely offensive, especially when leading it. So Apom just decides to get his free fake out off into the Munchlax. U-turns into Lax, and is already putting in a decent amount of work. Getting rid of Munchlax's Berry, best Pokemon in the tier, always a good start. Takes Life Orb chip, but Ghastly comes in. Ghastly is the defensive answer of Munchlax, does not take much for Pursuit. Ghastly comes in, opts to click Sludge Bomb into Staryu, doing huge amount of chip, doing 90%. Oran Berry is going to heal this back up to 60, but now Gligar comes in as he switches back out into Munchlax. Now, Diglett's going to come in on the Ice Punch, but it reveals to be Focus Sash. Now, with Focus Sash, reversal is extremely common, does a huge amount, doesn't kill the Munchlax. Munchlax is going to get the revenge kill. Now, Munchlax comes in on Lax, and now Melon could have decided to gone into their Ghastly here. Ghastly's free, full HP, still has its berry, could have walled this back, but opts to go for a Munchlax speed tie and does lose the speed tie, unfortunately, so Munchlax does get the kill on our Munchlax. Ghastly comes in, again, very free, especially now, it's -1 attack. Really gonna get off a free hit here. Opts to click Sludge Bomb, does 30, huge amount of chip into this Gligar. Gligar, not very commonly running a move to hit this Ghastly, so this Ghastly is looking to turn out to be a problem for Beraldino's team. Clicks Rocks, Shadow Ball comes in, does kill. Is that a roll? I don't think so, because it did 34. Math tells me that kills. Math is math. Alright, now Staryu comes in. That is the only really offensive pressure revealed that he has left for this Ghastly. Ghastly does wall this, and if Gligar was the best switch in the Ghastly, means there's most likely not a Stunky on Beraldino's team. So it's really going to come down to this Staryu putting on offensive pressure in order to kill this Ghastly. Now, Wynaut comes in as a defensive switch in to this, but actually, Staryu is just a strong son of a bitch that even with Hydro Pump and Oran Berry, it is going to 2-hit KO this Wynaut. So now Melon does have to go into Stunky. On the Staryu, it's threatening Sucker Punch, it's threatening Crunch, threatening Pursuit, really threatening a lot of things here. This is a hard turn for Beraldino to get out of if they want to keep the Staryu, which they need for the Ghastly. Somehow, Ghastly is the switch-in for the Stunky. And now some of you might be scratching your heads, why is this a switch-in? I don't know why it's the switch-in either. I was in awe. But what's crazier is that it somehow works out. The Ghastly comes in on the Ghastly. Now all of a sudden, the Ghastly that Melon has, that really is putting on a lot of offensive pressure, can probably kill the Munchlax or do a lot of damage to it. Staryu can't switch in. Ghastly obviously doesn't want to switch in on a Ghastly. But all of a sudden, Ghastly here is facing down the other Ghastly and really putting him in a rough position. He has to debate on if I want to risk my Stunky on something that can very consistently beat the Staryu, or do I just risk the speed tie? Because the opponent has no, for Melon's side, they have no Ghastly switch in. I have a Ghastly switch in, but I also need the Staryu switch in. So he does decide to opt for the speed tie, and he wins the speed tie. And he clicks Shadow Ball first. Ghastly goes down. Huge speed tie win here. If the Ghastly was able to kill our Ghastly, would have done a lot of pressure, would have forced the Stunky to take more chip, and potentially not be able to revenge kill the Staryu. Speaking of Staryu, comes back in. Melon reveals Sucker Punch. Not sure how common it is. I don't play the tier often enough. Reveals Sucker Punch, needing to get more chip onto this Staryu again, because it's just going to live every hit that's left so far. Clicks it. Hydro Pump does get another knockout, but Apom does get a free switch in here, now threatening the KO with Fake Out. Beraldo, realizing that's his win con, needs to keep it alive, goes to the Munchlax, which does get killed by Fake Out into return. Staryu comes back in now, realizing, hey, I'm almost out of options. I gotta go for this speed tie. Comes down to it. Staryu comes in and reveals last month's Snover. And Snover comes in, takes the Hydro Pump really well, reveals itself to be Oran Berry. So it's not Choice Scarf. It will not be threatening with maybe a Blizzard if it killed, or a Grass move. And he opts to Ice Shard here. And anybody wondering, why did he Ice Shard and not just Grass move? Because the Staryu, I guess, commonly run, is running Hidden Power Fire. So it's able to get more chip onto this Staryu. Now, is that chip really needed at that point? No, because Sucker Punch would have killed from there. Fake Out would have killed from there. But just running it for running its sake. So now Stunky comes in for free, gets to click Sucker Punch for free, kills the Staryu, and reveals Last Mon Mantike, and Melon just explodes on it. So Wentral, ooh, I did it again. Wentral going up 2-0 versus Brazil. Another close one, really determined by that Ghastly speed tie. But thankfully, because obviously he's on my team, was able to win it. On to game 3. We have Fatty or Brufasa versus LPZ. So LPZ bringing a Snover Smoochum. Smoochum very commonly to just bring Ice Spam or Blizzard Spam, chip down the team. But Fatty does thankfully have a Frillish, which can take Smoochum hits pretty well, but it is pressured a lot by not only having to deal with the Snover, which can potentially just Grass move it, but also there's a Staryu, which it might want to switch in on the water moves. There's a Porygon, potentially. There's Ghastly. So this Frillish will be under a lot of pressure. On the flip side, this Ferroseed will be pretty helpful with dealing with this Porygon and this Staryu to alleviate some of the Frillish pressure. We have most commonly seen, most likely Flying Gem, Drifloon, in order to maybe break holes into this team. You have a Carvana, which if it's able to get a speed boost and maybe knock off some items, will able to put in a lot of pressure. We got a Diglett last. We're going to go into it. Ghastly into a Frillish lead, really bad lead. On this, they both do some scouting on what the opponent's going to click. Staryu comes in, Pharisee comes in, does take a Scald and get burnt this turn. Really unfortunate turn for the Pharaoh. Opts to click Scald again as Fatty clicks Spike. But now all of a sudden, this Staryu and this Porygon are putting on a lot of pressure. This Pharisee's already it's going to take the burn. It's already taken the burn chip. It's at 40%, but it still needs to help deal with this Porygon and this Staryu. So all of a sudden, those two Pokemon do become a lot more problematic in this matchup. Opts to Thunderbolt, maybe predicting a Frillish to come in as just Giga Drains, get some more health back, but again, it's so low based on the crit and the burn immediately. It is taking a lot of damage. Mienfoo comes in to take a Giga Drain, but takes a Thunder Wave instead. Really good Thunder Wave by Fatty. Mienfoo comes in on a U-turn as a Ghastly comes in. Ghastly opts to click Trick and tricks a Black Sludge. This is just another form of knock counterplay. Since knockoff is only 20 base power in this tier, this is a cool way to steal items. And now this Mienfoo has a Black Sludge, so every turn it stays in. Not only does it no longer have a Violet Bolt, but it's also going to be taking another 10% from the negative leftovers, as I'll call it. Diglett comes in, opts to get Rocks up, but Ghastly, which is commonly run on this set, perhaps a misplay from Fatty, clicks Wisp, but he dodges the Wisp. Clicks Beat Up in order to chip down this Ghastly. It's going to get 6 hits because... Sorry, correction. It's going to get 5 hits because the Pharisee is status, and that is how the move works. And fortunately, gets another burn. So Diglett getting really lucky here in order to do some massive chip to this Ghastly. Porygon comes in on another Beat Up, or switches in on an Earthquake. Great predict by Fatty here. And Earthquake doing 36, you might think maybe it's a roll. He got a low roll, but in fact got a high roll. It only does 28%. So Porygon recovers. Now all of a sudden, but since it traced recovery, now Diglett's trapped with this Porygon. Porygon's going to go all the way back up to full HP. It should, I believe, clicks Toxic this turn. And now it's just going to be Porygon spamming recover as Diglett Earthquakes, fishing for a crit, doesn't get it on the last turn. Diglett goes down. And now, again, this Porygon technically putting on a lot of pressure. Has Toxic for a Frillish, which is really good for the 2 Ice types in the back. Mienfoo, while it is still a threat, it no longer has a Violet and now has to be really scared of switching in. It obviously switches in the first time. And Pharisee, again, because of its burn and taking so much chip earlier, it's really not a free switch in. So Mienfoo comes in on the other Mienfoo, clicks U-turn, as Drew decides to go into his Drifloon. Drift reveals itself to be Flying Gem Acrobatics. LPZ smartly sacking the Staryu, was not going to get the spin off. But now Porygon comes in, but again, he's putting on so much pressure. Without the Flying Gem boost going into it, I believe Acro only does 36, so it doesn't even 2 KO. So opts to just click Will-O-Wisp, get the chip, get some Everlasting chip on it, go from there, and goes back into Mienfoo, but takes a Psychic. And now this is a really tough turn for Fatty. Fatty really needs to get rid of this Porygon. It's putting on a lot of pressure into its team. It can hit everything pretty well with Psychic. Could have T-Bolt for Frillish, for Carvana, and really puts on a lot of pressure versus his team. So he really needs to remove this Porygon. But if he HJKs into a Ghastly, which could very easily switch in, he does just lose his Mienfoo and biggest breaker of this Porygon. So this is a 50-50 on does the HJK predicting the Porygon to stay in, or does the U-turn predicting the Ghastly. But it's a really hard click to make. Both sides. Odds to make the safe click. U-turns. Really doesn't want to lose this Mienfoo to a Ghastly switch in. Frillish switches in on the Porygon. Reveals Taunt. So now this actually does end up beating this Porygon 1v1. And especially with it switching out, most likely revealing that it doesn't have Thunderbolt and is most likely Ice Beam. So it is going to just 1v1 as it doesn't get Toxic. Snover comes in on the most likely Water move. Yep. Clicks Scald. Doesn't get a burn. And now, wants to scout damage, see how much it does. Does 48%, a good amount, but clicks Recover on it. Smoochum comes in now on a... I don't know what it comes in on. Smoochum comes in on a Drifloon. Now, very commonly run on these kind of teams is a Scarf Smoochum. Smoochum doesn't have, I believe, the greatest bulk, so it's trying to just get off as many fast Blizzards as possible. And Drifloon, not the greatest switch in here, because it is threatened by those Scarf Blizzards and no longer has the Unburden boost. But he opts to, he's running Sucker Punch. I'm not sure how common that is, but we had Sucker Punch, but it fails because, wait a minute, it's not Scarf Smoochum. It's actually a Violite substitute. Now all of a sudden this Smoochum's putting on huge pressure behind this substitute, because Frillish is going to assumedly take a lot from Psychic or whatever coverage move it has. Ferroseed is dead. Drifloon, this is a speed type. Mienfoo doesn't have a Violate at 50%, it's taking a lot of damage. So it opts to go into Frillish here. It takes 24% from this Blizzard. Huge. Does get a nice Cursed Body Disable on it. But Psychic comes in, does 36%. And we opt to Scald, breaking the substitute. But now our Frillish is in range and doesn't have a way to beat the Smoochum. So Carvana comes in on the Psychic. And as Fatty here, maybe assuming that it's only Ice Psychic coverage, thinking, oh, I might wall this, maybe it's Nasty Plot, trying to get that big damage off, but it reveals Hidden Power Fighting in order to hit Poniard, which Fatty, just an oversight on his part. Now all of a sudden, this Smoochum is really putting in pressure. It's no longer disabled. Blizzards now are back on the field, can really nuke his entire team. Does opt to Fake Out, does get a lucky crit, I believe. Do not think it would have killed without it. Does get a crit into the Smoochum. And now Ghastly gets to come back in. Decides to keep the Mienfoo, as it is really one of his only ways to beat this Porygon. Decides to sack the Ferroseed again with the Hail Chip and the Burn Chip. It took so much from earlier. It is going to get 2-hit killed by the Shadow Ball. Mienfoo comes back in to revenge kill this Ghastly. Clicks Knockoff, gets rid of the Eviolite, but reveals Pain Split as well. Mono Shadow Ball. But because of no Eviolite and the Pain Split and the Hail and Black Sludge, it is going to revenge kill with that. Now Drifloon has already revealed Sucker Punch, so this is technically a mind game of does he Shadow Ball into the Sucker Punch or the Acro? Does he get a Wisp? It's really tough turn, and he gets the turn right. Does decide to Wisp into the Acro, and now Drifloon burnt, really losing some of the offensive pressure. Now Drifloon here revealing Sucker Punch, not really sure what he's gonna deciding. Hey, I want to try and get some last second chip on this Snover, is gonna most likely opt to Sucker Punch, but it reveals itself to be Scarf Snover, so a real flip up of what the team usually runs. Instead of a Violite Snover, Scarf Smoochum, it really flipped it, and this really caught Fatty off guard, because he opts to Sucker Punch this turn. And now, instead of getting this chip on the Snover that he needed in order for the Frillish to 1v1, the Snover really just came in and clutched up, got the 50-50 right. And now Drifloon here, it's so low, it's burnt, it has to get sacked here. Gives Frillish an opportunity to click Recover this turn, but it's going to take Psychic Chip, most likely taunts here. Mienfoo's going to come in to try and get a knockoff. It is paralyzed, so maybe he can get the pair up, but there is no pair. It gets a crit as well, but that crit really doesn't matter, because Snover is just going to do so much with Giga Drain, and it's just going to kill the Frillish. Not this turn, but yeah. So a really good team brought by LPZ, and it's able to bring Brazil up to only a 1-point game. It's now 2-1 Westral. Alright, on to the game 4. This is ORAS, some Gen 6 Little Cup. And we have Tazz bringing some flying spam here, versus westSasori bringing double flying resist. So maybe a bit of an unfortunate matchup. Does bring a Krogunk, not sure how common that is, because Diglett exists in all these tiers. But does bring a Krogunk, very interesting. Has a Ghastly, put on pressure. Porygon, most likely a defensive set based on the Spritzy Onix. And Tazz here really has the goal of trying to break through the Onix and Poniard, and westSasori is trying to weather that storm and maybe put on some pressure with this Ghastly, with the Krogunk, maybe even the Spritzy if it's Nasty Plot. We're going right into this one. Fungus leads into the Onix. Great lead by Tazz here. Opts to just click Giga Drain, get the chip going. Stays in on Tri-Attack, deciding, hey, there's no sleep fodder. I'm just going to get my sleep on Porygon, which is always good. You can never complain. Ghastly comes in now because Fungus really can't touch it minus sleep. With Giga Drain, Sludge Bomb, Recover, Ghastly is a pretty safe switch-in. Ghastly opts to click Substitute, so really not Choice Scarf, but it is a Violite. Ghastly comes in on Substitute, and Tazz revealing Rock Tomb instead of Stone Edge. Very interesting set here. The Onix revealing itself as Weak Armor, not Sturdy. Mienfoo comes in as rocks go up. Spritzy comes in on a U-turn as Poniard comes in. Poniard just opts to click Iron Head into the Spritzy. Does 67%, a huge amount of damage. Clicks Wish, Protect. Really just scouting to see what this set is. Is he potentially Choice Scarf? Is he a Violite? I don't know what he is, because I didn't look at the team. I didn't do my due diligence. Alright, Krogunk comes in on the 40%, revealing itself to be a Violite. Most likely going to be clicking the Drain Punch here, get the HP back. But opts to click Knockoff. He gets rid of the Citrus. Gets rid of the Berry Juice of Archon. So now this Pokemon is basically useless because of his Fetus ability. Opts to just get rocks up, sacks the Archon to Drain Punch. Now Krogunk back at a healthy amount of HP, but Diglett comes in to Revenge Kill. clicks Earthquake, kills the Krogan with a crit, but it's Life Orb, so it didn't matter. Now Poniard comes in. Poniard coming in on the Diglett, most likely revealing itself to be Choice Scarf. And Taz opts to try and switch out, but it is Pursuit trapped. And now this Life Orb Diglett, which would have been really helpful into dealing with this Onyx so the Fletchling could get through, is now gone. And now this Pursuit trapping Poniard is in. But now Taz's own Poniard gets to come in. Most likely gets a free Iron Head or knockoff. Opts to Iron Head to 70% to the Onyx, but now Onyx does have an attack boost. And decides that, hey, I don't want to lose my Poniard to an Earthquake. I'm going to switch out on, because Mienfoo always can eat the hit. But Onyx opts to explode here. Great read by westSasori, predicting that the Poniard was going to switch out. Now Mienfoo takes a huge amount of chip. Now Poniard revealed to be Choice. Well, it hasn't revealed itself to be Choice Scarf. Spoiler, it is Choice Scarf. Opts to lock in the Iron Head and does 30%, does another 36%. Taz playing around with the flinch, opts to Hidden Power, fire this, get some damage off, trying to really get some residual chip on this Poniard, because Choice Scarf could technically have an endgame into winning this. Poniard comes in, does 28%, not sure what that means our Poniard is. Gassy comes in on an Iron Head, does die, even though assuming a Life Orb, so Poniard does come in. This is threatening a 50-50 of if it's Iron Head, if it's Brick Break, and on the threat of this Poniard. And westSasori gets the turn right, does opt to just Iron Head, does 37%, has to sack, Taz has to sack his Fungus now. Goes in, goes back into his Fletchling, threatening to revenge kill with priority Acrobatics thanks to Gale Wing. Porygon comes in with Acrobatics, takes 40%, but it is sleeping, so even gets a roll, but does not matter. It does opt to Acro again into the Spritzy. And spoiler, so this is a 50-50 on if he decides to Swords Dance or stay in. westSasori obviously here not opting to click, what's it called? Not opting to click Protect, I guess predicting the Swords Dance as Taz goes for it. As he gets Moonblast chipped into it, now all of a sudden he's out of range of Acrobatics due to how much we saw the first one do. So Spritzy here is able to, should be able to knock out this Fletchling here and potentially force a flinch win game for westSasori here. But Taz, as GOAT player, gets the crit, and all of a sudden the Spritzy's dead, and now the Poniard has no way of beating through this Fletchling and the Mienfoo and the Poniard in the back, so he is opting to forfeit. But even still, if he wanted to win, westSasori would have required a flinch in order to get through this Poniard or the Mienfoo. But Wentral goes up 3-1 versus Brazil. Now, on to Game 5, we have a game of Sun and Moon Little Cup. So Luthier bringing in a semi-looking balanced team. He's got a Diglett, Marini, got some normal-looking guys, Volibee, Poniard, Abra, standard-looking stuff. BE7 opting to bring a Auroraville team. As we kind of expected, a lot of offensive-looking teams from our opponents, opts to bring it here. And really, a Pokemon to watch out for here is potentially the Shelder, if the Marini gets dealt with at any point or trapped by Diglett, and the Zigzagoon. Those guys can definitely put in a lot of pressure, and one common way of dealing with the Zigzagoon is having your Timber stay at full HP in order to take the thing. We're going into the lead matchup. We see Vulpix into Timber. This is an alright lead for Luthier here. He's most likely opting to click Knockoff, get rid of the Light Clay. Make sure that if this is to switch out, stay in later, that you can't get as many turns of Auroraville as possible. And as what we see happen, turn 1 opts to knock off the Light Clay as it clicks Auroraville. Turn 1. But turn 2, we see an interesting decision by the opponent, opting to instead stay in with the Vulpix and not go to maybe something like Spritzy or Volibee, deciding, hey, I don't think I'll need terrain, the screen for the entirety of the game. I'll just get it up now, and hopefully my offensive mons can do it. As Luthier opts to stay in, clicks Straight Punch, kills the thing. And now Timber now Luthier in a great position. Screen is up. There's only 7 or 6 turns that his opponent has to deal with it. So he opts to switch in now into the Spritzy. And he stays in to click Knockoff as the Spritzy does click Nasty Plot, as is common on these teams. And now it's most likely going to click Draining. I know it's Draining Kiss because I've seen the game. It opts to click Draining Kiss. Maybe an uncommon set. Most of the time they run Moonblast for the +2, but the added recovery is kind of nice. So opts to click it, but these do run Psychic. So Luthier decides to go into the Poniard here on the Psychic. And he goes back into the Marini on a Moonblast. So it's revealing itself to be double Fairy move, which I think is very interesting. I think sometimes instead of Draining Kiss, it runs Trick Room in order to make up for its low speed. The Moonblast does get a crit here, which is slightly unfortunate for Luthier, as it is taking a lot of damage. So opts to go back in the Volibee on a Psychic. And now all of a sudden, clicks Brave Bird, does get a very fortunate crit into the Spritzy here, as the Spritzy is most likely going to click Draining Curse, get all of its HP back. But now all of a sudden, it's turn 9 of the game, and there's no more Vorveil up, so you basically in sort wasted your Vulpix Alola and its Aurora Veil to only get 1 kill onto a Volibee. And so now the Pawniard is going to come in, revenge kill the Spritzy, and Luthier's looking in a really good spot. Aurora Veil is down. There's only a Sash Diglett left in the back in order to enable stuff, which is most likely comes in now. It comes in now. Opts to get up its rocks. Luthier going to just knock off. Clicks Earthquake. Doesn't kill the Violite Pawniard as he gets his own rocks up at Sucker Punch. But now, as some of the Sun and Moon players might know, this Zigzagoon is now potentially a problem. The Marini is no longer at full HP, and it might have died anyways to a extreme speed. I don't know the calc, but Diglett, now that rocks are up, if its Focus Sash is no longer going to be able to deal with this, Timber, because of the Hail Chip and was able to recover from the Blizzard and Hail Chip, is now in range of a +4, a +6 extreme speed. Pawniard is certainly in range. So really, the only thing that Luthier has left to deal with this Zigzagoon is potentially a Sash Abra. So Volibee comes in, most likely to revenge kill this Pawniard, maybe try and get a speed boost on an Iron Head, become a big problem to this game. But Luthier goes into his Abra hard and reveals that it is actually a Violite by only taking 36, I believe, from this. Now all of a sudden, this Zigzagoon, a real problem. If it's able to get a Belly Drum off on anything, it will just win the game from there with extreme speed. Dazzling Gleam does kill the Volibee because it's Berry Juice. Zigzagoon comes in. Now I calced this beforehand. Psychic is a 43.6% chance, barely under 50% chance to kill this Zigzagoon after Stealth Rocks. So Luthier, realizing, hey, wait, I don't have another play. I just have to hit this, hope I get the roll. Doesn't get the roll. The Zigzagoon lives on 1 HP. If this Belly Drums this turn, it does just win the game. Gets this Berry Juice up, but it offs the Thief. It steals the Violite from the Abra, but now, because it doesn't have +6, it's no longer a threat to this team. Timber is able to come in for free. Streak Speed comes out, does 25%, but it's able to Drain Punch all of it back, and now it's back at full HP. And now Shelter is faster, but it has to go for a Desperation Shell Smash. But because it's -1, if for some reason Drain Punch does 90%, which I didn't know it did that much, but it does 90%. So a real misplay by the opponent by not belly drumming on the Abra, trying to get the roll, and is unable to clutch out this game, and Luthier wins. And that does put, this is the 5th one, so that does put this to match point for US Wentral, 4-1 versus Brazil. On to game 6, we have Colin versus STarsAma, and they're both bringing a semi-balanced team. They both got their Mienfoo, they got their Diglett, they got their Fighting Check, they got their Stealth Rocker, and STarsAma opting to bring a Ponyta here, which is maybe fallen out of favor due to the prevalence of Diglett, and a Porygon. Most likely could be defensive, could be Choice Scarf. I don't really know. Can't remember this game. Colin here opting to bring a very standard looking team with his own. Has a Natu as well in the back to maybe bounce back hazards if any try to go right into this one. Natu into Mienfoo lead. Bit of an unfortunate lead for this Natu. It is technically scared of knockoff, but it does scare this Mienfoo out with Psychic, because I believe it is a one-shot, and knockoff isn't a one-shot. Thing is how the math works. But Morlo comes in, decides, I don't want to risk my Natu. Norlu comes in, try to get an Effect Spore on this. Opts the Spore on the switch. It's sleeping the Ponyta, which is really good. One of the threats to this Morlo, and gets a sleep on it. Mienfoo comes back in on the Mienfoo. The Mienfoo was trying to pressure STarsAma's Ponyta as it was sleeping. The Mienfoo comes back in, so Colin's going to go back into his Fighting Resist, takes the Fake Out, clicks U-turn, and does get Effect Sport into Paralysis. And now Coughing does get to come in for here, is threatening with a Sludge Bomb or a Fire Blast, or maybe a Wisp, as it comes in on a Moonblast. Takes very much nothing. Pawniard comes in, expecting a Sludge Bomb to come out, but STarsAma opts to click Fire Blast, doing huge chip to this Pawniard, but it has Berry Juice, so it is able to go back to full HP. Opts to click Stealth Rocks, and gets a lucky Fire Blast miss, staying in with his Coughing. So Colin's like, oh shoot, I got bailed out. I got to attack this thing now. Clicks Knockoff, does crit the Coughing. Now all of a sudden, with that huge crit into this Coughing, Mienfoo's looking like a really big problem. Mienfoo is paralyzed and most likely loses the 1v1. Coughing, your main fighting type switching, it's not switching it. It's at 20%. It's going to die to 2 Stealth Rocks. Standing Gas is, I think, lives 2 knockoffs, but it's a very close roll. Porygon obviously doesn't want to stay in on a high jump kick. Diglett does not have bulk, and Ponytail's asleep. So all of a sudden, this Mienfoo, maybe perhaps an overzealous stay-in by this coughing, but really having no switch-ins. Now no switch-ins to this Mienfoo in the back. Fire Blast does do more damage this time, as Ponyard does come in, gets a knockoff into this Mienfoo, and now Colin's Mienfoo is just going to put in even more work. Now this Mienfoo really can't take a high jump kick. Ponytail being asleep with rocks up is a real problem. This Mienfoo is putting in huge pressure due to this Ponyard. Ponyard, seeing this paralyzed, it's at 5%. It's like, I don't need this Pokemon anymore. I'm just going to go for the flinch, para-flinch, and he does get it into the Mienfoo. And now Mienfoo, or something else, has to get sacked. Some also be the Mienfoo. Diglett comes in the Revenge Trap, clicks Sucker Punch as it reveals Substitute, and Sucker Punch of its own. And I believe Life Orb, it is Life Orb. So he reveals that, hey, now this thing could technically be a problem. Mienfoo always does live one, even through a crit, I believe. So this could technically be a problem for Colin's team. So Earthquake comes in, does 57% as he opts to U-turn into his own Diglett. So he reveals to be Balloon Diglett, a new up-and-coming set of Diglets with its ability to trap other Diglets, be immune to spikes, and really just get the job done. So it has to Sucker Punch into the Diglett, does not get the crit to kill, and Colin's Diglett just comes in, does some good work. Porygon comes in, reveals itself to most likely be defensive with Arena Trap. Opts to click Rock Slide, maybe going for a flinch, but as he recovers, clicks Earthquake this time as the Porygon Revenge kills. But now, we were saying earlier, Frillish comes in actually. Maybe wanted to mid-ground, maybe predicting as a defensive switch. Maybe he has Taunt as he clicks Toxic, but he's actually slower than the Porygon, so his Frillish gets Toxic, which is really unfortunate as this does just beat. With the Taunt, if it got off first, it really just does beat everything else on STarsAma's team. So, obviously, Porygon taunting, clicking Ice Beam, maybe revealing this is the only move it has to hit. Well, if it has Tri-Attack, then it can't hit this Frillish anyways, because Ghost type. So, clicking Ice Beam as its only attack to hit this Frillish. Frillish just offing the Skull, does get a lucky turn 1 burn. Can't recover off this HP. Clicks Ice Beam again, because it is walled by Cursed Body as Frillish recovers. Now, Ice Beam disabled, can't recover. Colin does decide, I believe, this turn to just go into the Mienfoo, as Porygon, funnily enough, reveals its Mono Ice Beam with 3 status moves, and is just going to die to Struggle plus Burn Chip. Very funny interaction. So Sandy Gas comes in, the last hope for STarsAma's team, because this is maybe the only thing that can live 2 knockoffs. But fortunately for Colin, it makes the game way easier for himself. He gets a knockoff crit to put this thing into a range of another knockoff. Scorching Sands does not get the burn, and Mienfoo, just from here, the pressure pawn you're put on. Ponytail is going to sleep, going to get hit by a knockoff, sleep again, die to the HAK, and Coughing dies to a knockoff. So Colin really well played, perhaps a little lucky by dodging that Fire Blast, but putting in a lot of pressure to put this Coughing to low HP to his Mienfoo to win. And with that game, Wentral goes up 5-1, but there's still 2 games left, and mine is next. So I'm playing Always Edgy, the captain for Brazil, and I'm going against a team that one of my friends, Canadian player Wesh Papillon, has been using a lot recently. So immediately I had a sigh of relief as I saw, hey, I already know what this team is. I know the Terras. I know it's Terra Poison, Scraggy, Terra Fairy, Marini, and it's Terra Steel, Snivy. However, if you look at my team, this is the same team that BBB brought, and I just changed the order. I was like, hey, maybe they don't recognize it, but it's the same team. So we decided, hey, we're already up. Let's not reveal any more text, and we're going to go in. So it's really a matchup where both opponents know what the other team is bringing. And off rip, this is a Scarf Snivy that I know from prior knowledge, from playing this team before. Scarf Snivy does really have a good matchup into here. As you see, the only resist is Volibee and Ghastly, kind of. But Ghastly is going to be taking a lot from that, and Volibee is going to be taking a lot too, especially if rocks are up. Maybe Tinkating's here to pressure the Volibee as well. So Mienfoo, there's going to be a lot of pressure of, can Always Edgy get a lot of value out of his Snivy, put in some work. So he opts to just realizing, hey, Snivy is probably my best breaker of this team. Maybe if I get a good lead, I can put on some good pressure. But I led Volibee. I was predicting the Mienfoo lead. Goes in. Tinkating comes in. I opt to Brave Bird, seeing that there's a Tink. I want to keep my Violet. I go into Mud Brave for free as T-Wave goes up. Unfortunately, realizing that, hey, Snivy is coming in for free. Rocks aren't overly important for my game plan. My game plan is I need to chip this Snivy. as much as possible and get rid of it as soon as I can because of the amount of pressure it puts on. So I off the Earthquake, and 47% does reveal it to be Choice Scarf. So I go back into my Volbeat, my free switch, basically free switching as it gets +2. Tinkating comes in, I just Brave Bird again into the Tinkating. Now expecting maybe an aggressive play based on what he did in turn 2, I opt to Roost here as the Snivy does come back out on my Roost. So the Snivy again going to be forced out as I just Brave Bird again. And I decide, alright, I'm going to go back into my Mudbray here, but he goes back into the Snivy, making again another aggressive play, trying to get the Snivy as much value as possible. So I have to go back into my Volbeat here. And Brave Bird taking 26%, still not in range of, still doing my best to keep this Volbeat alive. And it's, as again, revealed to be Choice Scarf, so it cannot Terra Blast me again. But my opponent here, what a good heads-up play as he gets the boost. Heads-up play of, hey, this guy has just Brave Birded 3 times in a row. He's clearly not going to knock off into my Tinkating because he wants to keep his Eviolite in order to check this Snivy. Goes into his Gothita, very risky play, but it lives the Brave Bird expertly at full HP, knowing that I'm not knocking off here as I click Brave Bird and put myself into T-Bolt range. So T-Bolt goes up by my opponent, so the Gothita comes in. But now I get a free Mudbray. I'm able to get my rocks up as the opponent goes Tinkating, interestingly enough. Maybe expecting, hey, maybe I can get my own rocks up in a speed tie. But I believe I'm 14 speed, so I just kill this Tinkating outright. And now, I'm looking in a good spot. Yes, maybe the Snivy can come in, but I have Pokemon in the back. I have Terra. I can always deal with the Snivy if I need to. And so, but he opts to go Gothita, so smart play by the opponent. I'm perhaps realizing that, I don't know if Leaf Storm kills at full HP. We'll say it doesn't. But he goes in the Gothita deciding, alright, I can pressure this Mareanie in other ways. I'm just going to get this chip on the Mudbray. It's 40%. And now he sacks, but then again, Big Snivy gets to come in. That is taking rocks, thankfully that I got them up. But Big Snivy, again, threatening to really 2 KO everything on my team. So I go into Ghastly, and it takes 55%. That is because I'm Choice Scarf Ghastly. Now, you might be looking at this and you're like, alright, well, Sludge Bomb is pretty free. Because you get the Sludge Bomb, if they go Mareanie, you can just go into your own Mareanie, do fun Mareanie Wars, or go into a Mudbray on a Recover. And because Mienfoo doesn't want to come in, Scraggy comes in. But this is a Terra Steel Snivy. And I realize, hey, I kind of want to keep the Snivy. I don't really want him to Terra Steel here. Even though I do have a Timber, I don't want Timber to take that hit. So I'm just so I opt to Shadow Ball here because Shadow Ball is pretty free. And even if they go Scraggy, I'm like, alright, well, I have measures to deal with Scraggy. Yes, in the last game, they do opt to go Scraggy. Great play by them, realizing that I knew their Terra. Shadow Ball does get a Spit F drop, which technically is very useful. That leads to Mareanie being able to just click Surf twice instead of maybe having to potentially get crit. And I spend, you will not see this on here, but I spent a majority of my timer really trying to figure out how I deal with this Scraggy. Because I was like, do I go Timber? Do I go Mareanie? As we've seen, this is a bulk up Timber and an Iron Defense Mareanie, but I'm trying to think which one is more important for the 3 Pokemon in the back. And I decide the Mareanie is not as important. I can sack it to the Scraggy and go from there. And the Scraggy opts to click Dragon Dance on my Mareanie, but he clicks Dragon Dance again. Perhaps a misplay, maybe predicting, oh, I can't kill with 2 anyways, so I'm just going to go for it. But as we've revealed in the last game, I'm Iron Defense. So now his 2 Dragon Dances have basically been nullified. Go to the next turn. He Dragon Dances a 3rd time, but I Iron Defense again. I'm at full HP. I decide I don't have to risk it. I can just go from here. I beat you 1v1. So Scraggy get a click knockoff, but again, because I'm up in the boost wars, I only take 30%. He opts to click. I click Sludge Bomb here, potentially a misplay because he is Terra Poison on this Scraggy. So if he Terra Poison this turn, could have gotten a little crazy. But I do click Sludge Bomb. It does 48% due to the Spit F drop, and he clicks, and I get the poison thankfully. But it doesn't matter because I just click Surf the next turn. And now my Metroid in. So probably one of the biggest threats, the second biggest threat on this team, is now dead. But Snivy comes back in. I decide I'm just going to sack the Mareanie here. I no longer need it. And I go into my Ghastly here. Now again, I do have Psychic, which does hit the other 2 if I'm predicting a switch. However, Terra Steel Snivy, even at 34%, lives Psychic. So I can't click it in good faith. So I just opt to click Shadow Ball into this Mienfoo. Do 43%. Fortunately, no Spit F drop again for my opponent. As I go into Mudbray here as the sack, but the Snivy, once again, gets to come in and gets to claim another kill onto my team. My opponent doing a really good job of putting this pressure on with the Snivy. It really threatened so much of my team that nothing can switch in. Now, I do have a Terra that would let me live this, but I decided that I don't want to risk it. I was like, I want to keep my Terra in the back. I think my Pokemon in the back can win this. I decided not to use my Terra here. And I do just sack the Mudbray. And I decide to go into my Ghastly. It is faster. And now, thankfully, that it's taken the Rock's chip, this turn I can just click Psychic and kill even through a Terra Steel. But I opt to just Shadow Ball for some reason. I'm not sure why. Oh, because it doesn't 2-hit KO the other dudes anyways. And maybe if he stays in. Alright, so I opt to Shadow Ball. I go into my Timber on a knockoff prediction. And Timber is relatively free into this. It always will live the thing. I'll get a knockoff to the Mienfoo, do some big damage. The opponent opts to go Marini here, which is really good. It does enable my Ghastly and my Porygon. I click knockoff. Opponent predicting the Porygon to come in on the Marini. Gets it right as Porygon is to switch into this Mienfoo. Now Mienfoo now putting on a lot of pressure because now it's a 50-50 of do I stay in on a knockoff to kill this Mienfoo? Do I maybe go to my Ghastly predicting an HJK? But I could lose Ghastly if he knocks off. So a really tough turn for both sides. And I decide I'm going to go to my Timber. I think Timber is maybe expendable here. It's slower than both Pokemon. Really can't beat them 1v1. And we're going to go from there. And he opts into HJK, so he gets to turn right. Doesn't click knockoff into the Ghastly. So I go Mach Punch. I just try and get my residual chip as much as I can. Clicks HJK, doesn't miss. And I go into my Ghastly. I am Terra. I'm not Terra. Oh, I'm Terra Fairy on this, but I don't click it. And I am Psychic Glass. But Psychic does low roll this Mienfoo and doesn't kill, which is really unfortunate. And now knockoff does kill me as a real Choice Scarf. Now this Porygon in a really bad position because now it has to take a knockoff or an HJK from this Mienfoo. Really unfortunate position for this this Porygon to be in. So I have to Terra this turn in order to get out of the position. The opponent opts to just switch into their Marini and decides to goes into Marini first as I click Terra Fire and Agility in order to get faster than this Mienfoo. As I Agility that turn, turns into a Fairy type on my Psychic is not 2-hit KO because of Terra doing 52% with Surf. And I click Terra Blast into him and Mienfoo comes in. Fake out even with a crit, unable to kill. And Terra Blast just comes in, kills the Mienfoo, and I win the game, putting us up 6-1. Really close one. Played by the opponent, played really well to get the Snivy as much value as possible. But I was able to weather the storm with my defensive Terras and other Pokemon and eventually go there. And on to the last game, back to Scarlet and Violet. We have a very similar looking team brought by us again. 5 of the same 6 Pokemon, but there's a Torchic over Porygon. And Torchic able to thread stuff with strong fire moves and speed boost versus the team where honestly, fake fire resist Growlithe Hisui most commonly ran as a Choice Scarf item. James honestly got a really good matchup with this Torchic. And now again, we are seeing another Snivy Gothita Growlithe core. Maybe not the Growlithe this time, but Snivy Gothita really trying to trap Pokemon so the Snivy can win. Especially this Gothita for the Marini too. Because Marini can just pivot in on whatever move and then switch to the Mudbray for the Rock move. So this really is for LeJames Chonk trying to make sure that Marini doesn't get trapped here by the Gothita. And if it does, maybe kill it and hopefully weather the storm of the Pokemon. So Volibee leads into the Stunky to be able to eat the knockoff, kill with Brave Bird. Goes into Snubble on the knockoff, most likely. It's knockoff, goes into Mudbray on a Psychic Fangs, perhaps predicting Marini to come in for free. Snivy comes in, and now James Chonk opts to get rocks up, but Snivy comes in for free. So he does not know if this is a Scarf Snivy or a Violet Snivy, as there is no prior chip on this. Opts in the Leaf Storm, does 26%. Does switch out, maybe realizing that he does, and he clicks Brave Bird. He's like, alright, well, I live one. So I'm going to just click Brave Bird, and we're going to go from there, because Snivy is commonly running Terra Fire as their Terra Blast and that. But he clicks Brave Bird into a Growlithe as his only flying resistance with this 26%, so revealing itself to be in a Violet Growlithe, and most likely a Choice Scarf Snivy. And now realizes, alright, well, I don't really need to risk my Volibee here, so he's going to opt to, I believe, go into his Marini on a potential fire move as it clicks Stealth Rocks, but he goes hard Gothita on the Marini. However, he's going to be taking a Surf, and because of that chip he takes, Psychic is unable to 2-hit kill this Marini, and now the Gothita is dead. So now one of the big answers to the Growlithe here has been is still alive. So now if this Marini is able to get some HP back through a Regenerator, really bad situation for Ampha, his opponent. So now Mienfoo comes in, threatening a knockoff, goes into Mudbray as he opts to U-turn. Now again, we're in a similar situation to where I was last game. It KOs everything on his team. Nothing wants to take this hit. However, why I decided to play it more passive and maybe go into a sack war. You can have my Vullaby, I'll go into my Ghastly, you take something, I'll kill something, you kill something, I kill something. But because he has the Stunky, Cooper decides he's going to turn into a fire type and reveal what I also had but just didn't want to click. Terra Blast Flying kills the Snivy. Now, huge by him, now this Snivy, a lot of his Ampha's offensive pressure is gone. Growlithe is going to be taking Rock's Chip. Snubbull is knocked off. Mienfoo is Mienfoo, and it's walled by the Marini. Stunky can't beat 6 Pokemon by itself. And Stunky tries. It tries to come in here, but it clicks Knockoff. But because of the +2 boost and a Violite and from Stamina, Knockoff's unable to kill the Mudbray. And Mudbray just gets a free Earthquake off. And now all of a sudden it's looking really dire for Ampha. There's too many Pokemon left to lay live on Cooper's side. Mienfoo comes in as like the last ditch effort. Does click Knockoff, does get the kill. Timber gets to come in for free now. Doubles into Marini on a U-turn. And so now Growlithe comes in. Growlithe, maybe his saving grace is something that can like lock in, but it does need to hit the head smash, but it misses. Cooper willing to just sack the Marini. He had revenge killing options to whatever it clicked in the back. Click Surf, and now it just looks over for Ampha. Snubbull comes in and smartly goes Vullaby, predicting a Psyfangs or an Earthquake. Psyfangs is click. Greybird's click. The 6-5 doesn't quite kill the Snubbull. Play Rough comes out, but now Ghastly can just come in, click Psychic in order to hit this Mienfoo as hard as possible. Mienfoo most likely has to Terra out, does click Terra Water, still takes 32%, knocks off into the Ghastly, gets rid of its Choice Scarf. Timber now, though, gets to come in for free, takes 40% from that, clicks Knockoff into a Mach Punch, and Cooper does win this game. And now we go up 7-1. And now, just to show off some art, in order to commemorate our win over Brazil, thanks everyone for watching. I will be posting. This was only week 1 of the tournament, and there's still 4 other weeks. I'm going to be making the other 4 weeks anyways. I think we got China, India, North Europe, and US East left to play in this tournament. And one of them's already happened, so if you want to watch those, please hit like and subscribe. Feels weird to ask for that, but yeah, I'm uploading. So please watch those. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all around. Peace.